Welcome to the Alliance Virtual Farm Tour here in Northwest Arkansas. My name is Melissa McCarver and I am a program coordinator at the Beaver Watershed Alliance. We are happy that you have joined us today for our virtual field tour, funded by Mississippi State University and hosted by the Beaver Watershed Alliance. Today you'll learn about collaborative efforts of the Natural Resource Conservation Service, the Watershed Conservation Resource Center, and the Beaver Watershed Alliance to serve farmers by providing cost-share resources to help protect the natural resources we share.
Hello everyone, I want to welcome you to our virtual farm tour, and we're at the Harbison's farm, and this particular tour focuses on practices that Bill Harbison has implemented. And this is part of a larger project that's called the West Fork of the White River Watershed Initiative. I'm Sandy Formica. I'm the Executive Director of the Watershed Conservation Resource Center, and we are the lead group on this project. And it's an NRCS funded, water quality based initiative through the RCPP program. And our main partners on this, we have over 14 partners. But we're working closely with Beaver Watershed Alliance, who is doing the outreach, and then Beaver Water District is one of the main sponsors for the river restoration program. So what I'd like to do is tell you a little bit about the West Fork White River Watershed Initiative, and then we'll talk more about the program that we have for you today. So the initiative basically has two major components. One is we're going to be doing large river restoration implementation on the West Fork of the White River, and the second component is an EQIP program in which landowners can get funding to help implement best management practices on their farms that helps to improve water quality. So why are we doing this project? We have several goals that we would like to achieve, but the overarching goal is to protect the water quality of not only the West Fork of the White River, but Beaver Lake Watershed, which is our drinking water source for Northwest Arkansas. So through this project, we're hoping to reduce sediment loadings and nutrient loadings to the stream, and also we're going to restore aquatic and terrestrial habitat. And we're going to have many different entities, landowners involved in all of these efforts. So later on in the program, I will give an overview of the project. It'll be a slide presentation, so you'll hear more about that. But I would like to say that we were awarded $8.7 million, and this was the largest amount of money ever awarded in Beaver Lake Watershed to protect water quality. So we're really proud of it, and we're very grateful to our partners that have helped make this happen. I would also like to take a few minutes to thank Bill Harbison for being willing to participate in this, and Ann Harbison, we're at her front porch right now in her historic home filming, and all the Harbisons that have helped make this happen. So just to give you an overview of everything you're going to see on our virtual farm tour today, basically Bill's going to take you out into his pastures and show you different practices that he's implemented. Josh Fortenberry from the NRCS is going to give an overview of the EQIP program. We have about a little over $110,000 available still for people to apply. So we're hoping that through this program we might spark some interest. And then I'll give a better explanation of the project and what all those acronyms mean that I said earlier, and then I think that's it. So I'm going to turn it over to Melissa from Beaver Watershed Alliance. She has something to say at this point.
Hi,
Hi, my name's Melissa McCarver. I'm with the Beaver Watershed Alliance. I'm the outreach coordinator for the Regional Conservation Partnership Program here in the West Fork White River Watershed. I'm out here today with the Watershed Conservation Resource Center, the Harbison family, and the NRCS to talk to you about different practices you can implement on your farm. I'm the main contact if you need help applying for the Environmental Quality Incentives Program, and I can help you get wildlife management plans, forest management plans, and nutrient management plans. So please contact me if you have any questions about that. I'd like to introduce the Harbison family. We have Bill and Ann over here. They're nice enough to walk us through the different practices that they've implemented on their farm. This is Ann Harbison and this is Bill Harbison.
We're trying something new on racing cattle, and this is extreme rotation and letting the manure from the cows fertilize the fields.
As I talked to you earlier about the water program, Ann and my son Chad are doing the same type of water program, but on a little bit larger scale. They're using the tires from the heavy equipment, and the big drinkers are 7 foot wide, and they're just splitting those up so they can rotate and use same water for different fields, because they put them in the middle of their fences so they can get the water that these cattle need for that many head. And we're going to go back here in a little bit and look at some of those, and I think my son will be back here to talk to you all about those.
Thank y'all so much for introducing yourselves. Now, Sandy Formica with the Watershed Conservation Resource Center is going to give us some insight into what the West Fork White River Initiative is.
Hi, everybody. It's Sandy again. And I'm just going to give an overview of the bigger project that we have in the West Fork of the White River. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about our organization, Watershed Conservation Resource Center. We are a local nonprofit organization. We're more than 15 years old, and we're located in Fayetteville. We work throughout Northwest Arkansas, and we work, you know, outside of Arkansas too, but most of our projects are here because one of our main activities is designing and building river restorations, and we maintain all of those projects. So we have some that are over 10 years old, and we work with a variety of partners, government agencies, cities, watershed groups, landowners, and more. And we applied for a regional conservation partnership program back in 2015, and we were awarded the grant. And so this is a USDA NRCS program, and the purpose of it is to increase the restoration and sustainable use of soil, water, wildlife, and related natural resources on a regional or watershed scales. And as I said, we were selected for funding. We're towards the end of most of the project, but I want to recognize all of our partners here, and I talked about that earlier, but I thought it would be good to point out again that we have 14 partners, and we received, it was an $8.7 million grant, and we received $4.3 million from the federal government, with $1 million of that goes to the EQIP program, which is the primary focus of the presentation today. But all of those partners, they provided the $4.5 million for matching funds, and that was the only way we could bring in that much federal dollars, was to have that level of matching funds. So again, I want to thank those partners. The RCPP project has two components. The component that we're focusing on today is the EQIP program. Sort of a subcomponent of that is conservation planning, but we've actually had other programs that talk about that. But overall, the EQIP program and conservation planning, the Beaver Watershed Alliance is conducting most of the outreach. They're also available to either do site assessment plans for you or help you get to the right people to do agricultural, forestry, and wildlife habitat plan. Right now, under the EQIP program, which we're hoping you're going to listen to this presentation today, and if you need to implement best management practices on your farm or on your property, that you will consider participating in this part of the program. We have approximately $200,000 still available, and this is an example of how one landowner utilized this exact EQIP program in the watershed. So this is at Marion and Carolyn Kreider's property, and it's on Rock Creek, and this was a cut bank that just kept getting worse and worse every year, and they had lost a lot of their pasture land, and we used the EQIP program to rebuild this stream bank. And so I'm just going to go through the slides that show the process. So we actually reconstructed the stream bank. You can see the old cut bank, and we're probably constructing at least 40 feet from that old stream bank. And we're almost finished. We actually constructed a tow-wood bench, and then we rebuilt vegetated soil lifts back on top. So at the water elevation underneath that, there's another 5 feet of structure. And here we are finishing and planting the soil lifts. And then here's the final product. This is right after construction. Again, you can see the tow-wood bench above the water level, but it goes another 5 feet below the water elevation. And that EQIP practice is Stream Bank and Shoreline Protection 580. And this is a before and after, I'm sorry, these are the after photos. So the first one on the left is May immediately after we built the project, and then October immediately after we built the project. And there's going to be a video that shows the project today later on in the program. And these are the other EQIP practices that we implemented. Riparian herbaceous cover, forest buffer, mulching, tree and shrub site preparation. So all in all, we used the EQIP program. The landowner utilized the EQIP program and implemented 5 different EQIP practices. And they have a successful restored stream bank now. Just the current results for this part of the project. Under outreach, we pretty much have met all of our commitments there. We're still in the process of developing conservation-based plans, and we've done 100 out of 160, though I do believe Beaver Watershed Alliance has got more plans than that reported at this point. I think these numbers were based on maybe a few months ago. And then as far as signed contracts for the EQIP program, we've spent about $600,000 of the $800,000. So the other part of this project, which I'm not going to talk a lot about it today, but I just at least want to let you know about it, is what we call the PL 566 Watershed Program. And the objective of that is to restore actually reaches of river and restore both the channel and the riparian area. So these are more big river projects that improve water quality, enhance fisheries, and landowners that are adjacent to the streams are eligible. The purpose of this is the West Fork of the White River has quite a bit of channel instability that's resulted in accelerated stream bank erosion. And so we're utilizing a natural channel design approach to restore large sections of river. Each one of these projects requires the cooperation of several landowners. So we're about to start building one of these. It's an extension to an existing project on the airport at the Fayetteville Municipal Airport. So downstream of that, that involves 2 landowners. And then the other site that we're planning on doing is downstream of the Dye Creek Bridge. And that's going to involve 6 landowners. So this will result in the reduction of erosion, land loss, and sediment loadings to the West Fork of the White River and Beaver Lake watershed. But at the same time, it's going to improve both aquatic, riparian, and wetland habitats. And the photos you see there, that's actually an example on the White River, a before and after restoration. So why do we need this project? Both the EQIP portion and the large river restoration portion is needed because the West Fork of the White River is an impaired stream. It's on the state 303D list for excessive silt loads and high turbidity. This river is a major tributary to the White River that forms Beaver Lake, and that's where all of us, or most of us, get our drinking water in Northwest Arkansas. And by doing these types of projects, restoring the river, we can prevent the need for expensive treatment of drinking water in the future. And then it protects our current drinking water for Northwest Arkansas. If you remember, it's called the Regional Conservation Partnership. The regional part of this is we actually line the Mississippi River Basin Critical Conservation Area. And so we're the headwaters of the White River. Eventually the White River goes into the Mississippi. And also, as I mentioned before, it's an impaired stream, and we're also a priority for reducing non-point source pollution. And then this is just an example of a large river restoration project at the Fayetteville Municipal Airport. And this just shows you how much sediment and phosphorus load reduction we're getting with the existing projects we have. So the total is 15,000 tons per year of sediment reduction. And with these additional large river restoration projects, we're planning on, at a minimum, doubling that. If anybody has questions now, I can take some questions now. There'll be another opportunity at the end of the program to ask questions. Thank you. Melissa, are you there?
Okay, thanks so much, Sandy. We don't have any questions at this time, so I'm just gonna keep going. Next up is Josh Fortenberry he is a district conservationist for Washington County, and he works at the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service. He's going to talk to us about how you can apply for the Environmental Quality Incentives Program, which is what the Harbison family used to implement their best management practices on their farm.
Good afternoon. My name is Josh Fortenberry. I'm the District Conservationist for the Natural Resources Conservation Service in the Fayetteville Field Office in Washington County. I'd like to thank everyone that's joining in today in the virtual outreach meeting, and I'm hopeful that some of the information presented will pique your interest in the special project we have for the West Fork of the White River. And today what I want to talk to you about is the special funding for private landowners in the West Fork of the White River through our West Fork of the White River RCPP program. So what the project is, it's specific for the West Fork of the White River, and it started out just being available to those living in 1/3 of the watershed, but it has now been opened up to the entire watershed for funding. And so what's good about this project is you can apply for cost assistance to implement conservation measures on your property and not be competing against other people throughout the rest of the county. So in a sense, it could increase your chances at getting funded. So what we're doing with this project is we're looking at resource concerns. And as the slide says, we're working in association with our partners we have chosen, and we're looking at water quality. And partners is important in this project because this isn't something that NRCS just said let's do it. This was concerned individuals for the water quality of Beaver Lake and the sub-watersheds that got together and submitted a proposal at the national level, and it was accepted for funding. And so being that we're wanting to try to improve the overall water quality of Beaver Lake, that is the main resource concern that we're looking at through this project. So our goals is to address critical watershed scale erosion, improve water quality, riparian areas, and aquatic habitat through design and construction of large-scale river restoration, and also address accelerated stream bank erosion and implement best management practices on pastures and forest land. So you might ask, how can the NRCS assist you? So there's several different ways. Like I said, the project is a cost share assistance project, but we also offer technical assistance, and all of our services are free. So if you're not interested in receiving financial assistance and just need some technical assistance, we can come out to your farm, look at it, assess the resource condition and concerns, and try to formulate a plan that might help to improve the overall resource condition of your farm. Or there is the cost share assistance, and that is through an application and an assessment that's ranked against the other applications of individuals that sign up for the project, and then there's a funding, and at the end, if you're interested in it, you'd sign into a contract. So EQIP, and that's within the project, EQIP stands for Environmental Quality Incentive Program, and that's the funding source for the project. And it's a voluntary program. It provides technical and financial assistance to help agricultural producers implement conservation practices that keep land healthy and productive. We develop conservation plans that meet NRCS standards and participants' objectives. The applications are ranked based on the level of conservation benefits will be achieved. And that part's important because it is a competitive program. Not everybody that signs up will get funded. And it's important for you to understand that in the beginning. What we have now, it started out as an $800,000 we had to spend in a 5-year period, and we're going into our last year, and I think we have about $200,000 left to spend. So it will be highly competitive for those individuals that sign up for the program. Practices have set cost share rates, which are set each and every year, and so if you're contracted for stream bank stabilization or cross fencing and livestock tank, there's a set cost share rate that you'll see in the contract, so you'll know exactly what you'll get paid if you're funded. And payments received from us are considered taxable income and are reported to the IRS, and that's important. So if you think that might have negative implications for you, or you're concerned about that, I definitely recommend that you talk to a licensed CPA about any tax liabilities you might incur. So who can apply? Owners of land in agriculture or forest production, or persons who are engaged in livestock, agricultural, or forest production on eligible land that have a natural resource concern on that land may apply to participate in EQIP. Eligible land includes cropland, rangeland, pasture land, non-industrial private forest land, and other farm or ranch lands. Within this watershed, who we've worked with to this point have been livestock producers and forest landowners. On the forest side, you can look at forest stand health for overall forest condition, or you can look at the forest stand in reference to trying to create a better wildlife habitat. So for eligibility, it's very important. You must be an agricultural producer. It can be a person, legal entity, or joint operation who has an interest in agricultural operation or who is engaged in agricultural production or forestry management. If you're not an agricultural producer with livestock, like that said in the end, forest landowners are eligible. You have to have control of land, and to verify that, you need to have your farm records established with the Farm Service Agency, and they're located next door to us in the office. And they'll probably ask for your deed or proof of ownership, and then they'll have some other forms you'll have to fill out. But that's really step number one, is getting your farm records set up. And then there's an adjusted gross income statement that you have to file, and you'll report. You'll answer a question. It says, do you make more than or less than $900,000? And it's for the previous 3-year tax period. And if you happen to answer yes, you make more than 900,000, then you're not eligible for the program. And then you need to be in compliance with the highly erodible land and wetland conservation requirements. So some land is considered highly erodible, and we want to make sure that whatever we might plant on it doesn't further accelerate that erodibility of the land, and if any mitigation measures might need to be planned in addition, then we would do that. And also we have to make sure that we avoid wetlands. So there is a form, it's called a Form 1026, that you fill out and file with FSA and request that a highly erodible land and wetland determination be made on your farm. So the way it works, you set up an appointment with your local NRCS office, and we'll identify resource concerns and outline your objectives. You'll establish farm records with the Farm Service Agency, and then once farm records are established, you will submit application and other required documents, which include highly erodible land and wetland conservation certification, payment eligibility, which is your AGI, and then we'll need a direct deposit, because all of our payments, you don't get any money up front. Once you're in a contract, we'll schedule the practices, you'll see what years they're planned in, and once a practice is completed, we'll check it out, verify that it meets our specifications, which we provided you when you signed the contract, and then we'll certify it, and then there's a direct deposit made into the account that you've given us. We'll come out for a site visit and we'll do a resource inventory. That's important because it's not a wish list program, it's a program that's looking at actual resource concerns, and so we want to look at soil erosion, water quality, plant condition, so, whether or not there's enough feed and forage for livestock, if there's enough water, is the stream bank stable. Those are an example of some of the resource concerns we'll be looking at. Then we develop a conservation plan, which outlines what practices we're looking at planning on each field and a time frame. But then we do all that up front, and we assess the application, we rank it, and then there's a funding determination. And like I said, it's competitive, so not everyone will get funded. Just a quick slide on our planning process. Phase 1 is collection and analysis. We determine the objectives with you. We go out and we identify the problems, the resource concerns, and we analyze any resource data that we can find on the property. Phase 2 is decision support. That's where we'll formulate different alternatives for things that we can do to address those concerns. We'll evaluate those, see what's the best fit for you that would meet your objectives and treat the resource concern. Then we'll work with you to make a decision on what exactly you want to implement on your farm. And then phase 3 is you implementing the plan, and once that's done, evaluating to see the effectiveness of it. So there's several different practices. I'm not going to name them all that are eligible within the project. For forestry, there's forest stand improvement, prescribed burn, fire breaks, conservation cover. For pasture, we have livestock pipeline, watering facility, heavy use areas, cross fence. For maybe an opening that's small where you're wanting to establish some trees, we can do tree establishment. If you are a waterfront owner and need a riparian area, we can work with you to do a riparian area through tree planting. Stream stabilization is a big one. If there happens to be any poultry folks out there, we do offer practices that could assist with the handling of dry waste and with animal mortality disposal. This is just some pictures. Here's a pipeline installed. One of the specs on that, we do a pipeline design and tell you exact size to use, but it's important to know that if you are funded for pipeline, that it has to be trenched to a depth of at least 18 inches. And here's a stock tank that's a freeze-proof tank on a concrete pad with the gravel heavy use area around it, and the tire tank underneath it. Those are a couple different options on tanks. And then with the pond, what that is the pond itself was fenced off so they can no longer access the banks, and they were given limited access to a portion of the pond that they can enter to water, and that was protected with a heavy use area using filter fabric and SB2. This is just an example of a farm layout of, if this was just a square and open field, this is just an example of how you could cut it up into multiple pastures for rotational grazing system if you had cattle. And then you see in the northeast corner, there's a stream with a filter strip and wildlife plantings to the north of that. Another example, same type deal, showing different land uses, riparian area, an overseeding on a pasture that was planted to natives, and this one's showing a dugout pond and a pipeline with multiple water sources for your movement of livestock. There's many different partners in this project. A lot of folks in Northwest Arkansas that care about Beaver Lake and protecting it and improving the water quality. I'm not going to list them all. I'm just going to show the slide. I hope everyone's on that and didn't exclude anybody. But it's a good opportunity for private landowners looking to make improvements on their farms, and it can provide with some cost assistance to help you incur the cost. I'd like to thank everyone for watching today. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me at the Fayetteville Field Office at 479-521-4520, extension 3. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Josh, for presenting that. We still don't have any questions, so we're going to move on to the actual field portion of our tour today. Bill and Ann and Bill's son Chad are going to show us the different practices that they have going on at their farm.
Good morning, I'm Bill Harbison, and we're out here on my family farm along with my sister and my son, and we're going to talk about the EQIP program, how it has helped us in our watering and our pasture rotation with the cross fencing. And right now we're going to go up and I'm going to take one of my Fairmont drinkers and show you how it works, and then I'll take it apart and show you how you can clean it. Okay, we're here now at the Marifont fountain that I was speaking of earlier. This fountain is set up to be freeze-proof water in the wintertime. It's open right now, and these balls, there's a bolt in there that holds them down in the summertime so the cattle and everybody, and all your cattle and calves can get plenty of water. And then in the wintertime you trip that and let that ball float up, and when it gets cold it keeps the water from freezing, and the cattle come in, all they do is push it down and they get their water. And like I said earlier, this is the same fountain that we put in 04, and only thing I do to it is maintain it. It's very simple to maintain. All you do is unbolt the top, lift it off, and as you can see, it's got a ball float in there that when it goes down, it opens up the water, and when it comes up to maximum, it shuts the water off. All you do, you pull this little cap off, You can clean out the inside, and there's plugs in the bottom. You push out, and it drains the tank, and all the debris that the cows drop in there, you can flush it out and clean them. You have to do this about once a year. You take this ball, it's got a bolt in there, and you just release it, and it floats up. And that fills up, and it floats up, and it shuts off all the air and keeps the water from freezing on the inside. To clean this, all you have to do is reach down here, push this plug out, get in there and swirl that water around, get all the debris out of there that the cows drop in there. Plug goes on the inside. You can put it back in there. It's filling up. Put your top back on, and you're through. It's that simple. Don't wait until the middle of November when it stops up and quits working to come out here and try to clean it, because it's cold. So you do it like late September, 1st of October when it's warm. No problem, but you'll have to do it at least once a year, and I suggest that you do it twice a year. Now, I'm going to show you the difference in the water quality with this pond, and we're going to another pond of where the cattle have gotten into the pond and where the cattle do not get into the pond. I'm going to pull the plug off this, so you may want to back up a little bit because the water's going to squirt high. Okay, here's the plug. Comes off the top of your, and this is all when you buy this unit, this is all together. And all you do is when you flip up, and there's your water. It's a little yellow. It's not real clear, but it's drinkable for cattle. And that's the water pressure coming out of the pond up there about 100 yards up there on the upper side of the field. So you've got plenty of water if you do a good job of placing your drinkers. They will fill up, gravity flow. I've got a 2-inch water line running into this, and it's reduced down to a 3/4-inch line, and that's the type of water pressure I get. When you do that, you want to fill it up in a hurry, just pull this off, take a bath, and you put it back on, and put the top back on, and you're through. If we didn't have these drinkers out here, the cattle would be in mud puddles. They would be out here in the runoff water where they pick up all kinds of trash and germs. And this is just to keep the water clean as possible for your cattle. And when you drop the balls in the summertime when it's hot, they can get in and get a lot more water than they do in the wintertime. Although cattle drink a lot more water in the wintertime, a lot of people don't realize that just because it's cold, but they do. They drink a lot of water in the wintertime, and this clean water in the wintertime is very important. This pond that you can see in the background is where I get the water. It's all gravity flow, and it's not that great of a drop, but the time you build your pond and you fill it up and you put your pipe in and it runs, and it's amazing how much water pressure you get through a 2-inch water pipe when you run it about 100 yards, 150 yards. It builds up a lot of pressure. Now, the reason I have this gate and this fence here is through EQIP. They help me divide my pastures up so I have rotation. So I put them over here for a day and bring them over here for a day, then move them to another field. What that does, that lets this field back here rest for 3 days. You get 3 days of growth without anything eating it. Then you move it around. You understand, once you start this, when you leave a field, and it has a time to recover if you don't leave your cattle in there too long where they eat all your grass. And so it gives you a chance to recover, and you keep clean water, and hopefully with a little rain you've got plenty of grass. What we have here is what we call the heavy use area, and you have to maintain it. They have a fabric that you put underneath this rock that will let the water go through, but won't let the rock settle down into your soil, so you can maintain what you have, but you still have to come back and do some maintenance on it. We have just finished talking about the maintenance of the drinkers and the ground around the drinkers. Now we're going to move up to the maintenance of the gates, the heavy use area in your gates. And the purpose of that is so when your cattle move, they're not walking through water. You know, when you haul your hay, your tractors and stuff through all your gates and you're turning, you're going to make ruts and you're going to make holes. Well, if you take this geo felt and put under and cover it up with gravel, you know, the water will go through, but the gravel will stay where it stay put. Then you, as you work your way through your field, then you can load your hay out everywhere you want to put it, come back, because you come right back through the same gate you went through. So you're using this gate 2 times a day. And then when you move your cattle, of course, they're going to go through it. If it's clean, if it's dry, they'll walk through. If you've got lots of water out here, the calves and stuff, you basically have to push them through it. But once you get a good foundation like this for them to walk on, I see no problem. The reason I have this gate and this fence here is through EQIP, they help me divide my pastures up so I have rotation. So I put them over here for a day and bring them over here for a day, then move them to another field, What that does, that lets this field back here rest for 3 days. You get 3 days of growth without anything eating it. Then you move it around, you understand, you know, once you start this, when you leave a field and it has a time to recover if you don't leave your cattle in there too long where they eat all your grass. And so it gives you a chance to recover, and you keep clean water, and hopefully with a little rain you've got plenty of grass. Talking about the quality of water that we had in that pond over there versus the quality of water we have in this pond here, and the difference is cattle have been in that pond over there and cattle have not been in this pond over here. And I'm going to pull the top off of this and I'm going to take it apart and let the water come out, and it'll let you see the difference in the quality. If you'll notice, this water hasn't changed colors. It's like that it'll run like that all day if I let it. If I let it, it'll drain the pond. But that's the difference in a cow's being in a pond and a cow's not being in a pond. I've got 6 on this farm. And I put in over the last, well, I started in 04. I think I put my last ones in like 09. And now I have good water. And this summer, when it got so hot, I went ahead and put in a tank, an open tank, for my cows to get into it and drink, and my calves could have plenty of water and get to it without having to fight for water with the cows. I've noticed, since I have these drinkers over here and the drinkers over there that we looked at earlier, my cows will come over here and drink this cleaner water than they will the water over there. Yeah, they'll drink over there, but when they get real thirsty and they leave out, they'll come here and drink out of this drinker here and out of my tank I've got set up over here. And this morning when I came through, I had 5 cows right there at that drinker. They had come off out of the woods, had eaten, come down here, they went straight to that water tank right there. They bypassed both of these drinkers, and who knows, I think they're pretty smart. They know where they can get the most water in the shortest amount of time, and that's what they've done.
We started doing a lot of rotational grazing back in the spring, Ann and I did, and one of the things we need to make sure we do is have abundance of water, because we're putting on these small paddocks, we're running about 125 mom cows plus calves. And so what we found out, we were really struggling with just having not just water quality, but just the water volume. So Ann went and got these tire drinkers, and we installed these tire drinkers. We put 3 of them in around the farm, and they've been really good for just getting us the volume of water we need, and we pipe them off our ponds. So the water, it's free water we're getting off the pond to fill these up. So basically all we did was, you have to level this spot, and of course it's a high use area, so we put the felt underneath, and then we put crushed limestone in here and leveled it up, and we set the tire. And then once we got that level, we already had it plumbed off the pond, and we brought 1.25 inch line over here, and then we reduced it to a 3/4 and brought it up in there. So what we basically have is just a simple float valve in there. One of the things we did on this particular drinkers is to kind of prevent from freezing in the winter, is we put a valve under the float that we can turn on at any time, and then we put an overflow in here so we can continue to circulate water in the winter time to prevent it from freezing, so we have water year round. So it's been really good. These things they're a little bit of work to install, but man, they're nice. We got the tire, and then we put 20 bags of Quikrete in there, and then we plumb it and basically fill it up on top of the Quikrete, and it's done. So once you get it leveled up and get it set, and get the Quikrete in it, and get the water turned on, that's what you get. So pretty user friendly. The water volume is what we were after, because we've got our stocking rates real high. I mean, we've got, for a small paddock, where this is probably about a 10-acre paddock, and we're putting 125 cows on it, rotating them a day. So we want the volume. Plus, without having cattle in our ponds and things like that, we're getting pretty clean water for our cows to drink right out of the pond without having to pay for water. So it's really, it helps us with quality, but the big thing we were after was actually the quantity of water we were getting.
In hot weather like this, water is very important. And keeping the weight on the cattle and keeping them in good health.
We're trying to take the water to the cows instead of the cows to the water. So we can graze our pastures and manage our pastures in a manner that we're getting 14 days or more growth on our pastures after rotation.
Wow, thank y'all so much for that amazing tour. Does anybody have, I'm still not seeing any questions, so I'm just gonna keep going. Next up is Sandy Formica again. She's gonna be showing us one of their stream restoration sites that they've done through this environmental quality incentives program.
Hello again. We are at Marion and Carolyn Kreider's property, and part of this West Fork White River Watershed Initiative, they did the EQIP program, and we implemented a stream bank restoration. So I'm on Rock Creek, and what you're looking at here is the stream bank restoration that is 1.5 years old. But what used to be here was a cut bank that was at least 10 to 12 feet high, and there'll be a presentation during this virtual farm tour where I'll show you the before pictures. But we built this in March of 2019, and so we've had 2 growing seasons, and basically the design was we rebuilt the stream bank back. So the foundation is a tow wood structure, and you can see the root balls from the tow wood. So we've got wood that goes another 15 to 25 feet back towards the old cut bank. And this stabilizes the toe of the stream bank. Actually, it's footered below the surface that you're looking at here. So it's footered another 4 4 or 5 feet below what you can actually see. So that's so the stream can't scour out underneath this. And we're in low flow right now. Rock Creek is a major tributary to the West Fork of the White River, and in the summertime it has very low flow. So normally when the water's running, about half of this toewood is going to be covered in water. And up above this, in the presentation that I give at another part of the time, we show these floodplain benches that we build out of bio blocks, and we pre-plant those during construction. And these are all the plants that we pre-planted with, and you'll just see them as like little sticks in that photo with flagging on it. And because we pre-plant, we're able to get this kind of vegetation very quickly. So you're looking at, we use all native plants. You're looking at Carolina willow right here. We'll walk through here. There is witch hazel right over there. There's false indigo. All of these plants occur naturally in this watershed and in this Boston Mountain ecoregion, which is where the project is located. Back in here you'll see eastern gamagrass. And we select our plants based on whether they're native, but when we're this close to the stream, because water will be way up into, on top of this gravel bar here, and over, it'll be another 5 feet higher than on top of this gravel bar. And so this vegetation helps slow down the velocity, but it also creates habitat for wildlife, and that's why we want to use the native vegetation. Also, the native vegetation adapts to our climate much better, and that's how we're able to get such a vigorous growth. So we implemented 5 EQIP practices. The main one for the stream bank restoration was shoreline protection. It's 580. And then we also did some practices associated with reestablishing the riparian above the stream bank work. And that included riparian forested buffer, riparian herbaceous cover. We did tree and shrub site preparation, and we also did mulching. And so we won't be able to see up above, but we probably have at least another 100 feet of riparian that we've restored once you get to the terrace. And again, I just want to emphasize the native plants. There's a few more you can see in this shot, but there's hazel alder. This is a really good example of eastern gamagrass, and that's a great one for stabilizing the floodplains. And we also have, you can see river birch back there and buttonbush. We probably planted 5,000 plants in the form of shrubs, bare roots, potted plants, and plugs. And we also put out native seed as well. So before we did this project, there was just a big cut bank it was about 350 feet long. And every time a big flood came through, it would take away more of the Kreider's property. And all that soil was going into the stream, which is Rock Creek. And then the West Fork, the confluence with the West Fork is just, it's maybe 300 feet from where I'm standing. And so eventually that was going into the West Fork, which again, that eventually, everything that goes into the West Fork eventually ends up in Beaver Lake, which is our drinking water source. So this is a great project to utilize EQIP funding. It was small enough that we could actually do this stream bank restoration under EQIP, and it's very effective in reducing sediment nutrient loads, creating wildlife habitat, aquatic habitat, all of those good things that we want to get from our environmental efforts. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sandy. I want to thank all our partners that have helped us put this together. We'll have our live Q&A segment shortly, but first I want to thank Mississippi State University for funding this broadcast, which was filmed by Scott Davis and his daughter Jordan with Davis Video. I also want to thank Sandy Formica with the Watershed Conservation Resource Center and Josh Fortenberry with the NRCS for speaking to us about the program and how landowners can sign up for the Environmental Quality Incentives Program. Thank you so much for attending this program, and we hope you enjoyed learning about the West Fork White River Initiative and how it helps farmers to take care of our natural resources. There's technical assistance provided through this program, and the Beaver Watershed Alliance is in charge of the outreach, and you can call me or email me at the numbers provided on the screen. I can help you sign up for site assessment plans, or if you're interested in getting any land management plans such as forest management, nutrient management, or wildlife management plans for your property, they're free through this program, and I can help you get signed up for those and figure out what you can do on your property. If you'd like to sign up directly for EQIP, you can call Josh Fortenberry at the USDA NRCS office. Thank you so much for attending, and it's time for our live question and answer segment where we can answer any of your questions live. If you haven't entered your questions, you can enter them now. So we had just had one person email us, could you show the slide that details the practices that EQIP covers? Sandy, do you have that available?
Do I have a list of the practices?
Yes.
Not on my PowerPoint.
Could you screen share for a second, Sandy?
Yeah, here we go. Approved conservation practices. So if you can see my toggle, there's the first 10, and then on the next page, there's more. So you can see there's quite a few. So those are all the practices that are available, this RCPP.
That's
Is that what
great.
you wanted to see, Melissa?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to see. Thank you so much. And you can always email me and I can share that fact sheet with you. We have another question. If you are a forest landowner, but not in forest production, would we still qualify for the program? Yes, you would still qualify for the program because you can do forest management practices to attract wildlife or improve wildlife habitat through this program. So you can still do timber stand improvement practices, which include thinning. You can receive funding for fire breaks. You can receive funding for prescribed burns. All of that can be included in forest management. You don't have to be a tree farmer to receive funding for forest management. Are there any more questions? I think we're good. I think I haven't gotten any more questions. Thank y'all so much for attending. We really appreciate it. And again, if you have any questions, please shoot me an email at melissa@beaverwatershedalliance.org, or you can call me at 479-750-8007. Thank you so much for attending our virtual farm tour, and I just really want to thank all our partners and sponsors for this event and our speakers. They're amazing.
Thank you, Melissa.